shoulder any of the blame here? Are you responsible at all?
Well, we're all responsible. I was responsible when I decided to run for mayor in 1999, and I told people all across our city, vote for me, and together we will not only improve the policing of our streets, we'll improve the policing of our police. We'll expand drug treatment, and we'll save a lot of young lives by intervening earlier.
Well, there's a man out there who may seek to become the next president of the United States, a former mayor and a former governor, so you might expect him to be somebody eminently qualified for the gig. But then look deeper. See that he had been at the helm of the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland, with the lid being ripped off the political, social, and economic disaster that is Baltimore at the moment. His chances at occupying the White House may have just bitten the finely tuned lawns around Pennsylvania Avenue. Our guest is the senior congressional correspondent for the Washington Examiner, and taking us into that seamy underbelly that is always inside the Beltway. Welcome David Drucker to the Hardline. David, thanks for being here.
Good to be here.
Well, let's talk about O'Malley here a little bit, because let's see, he's been city council. Walter O'Malley has also been the governor. He's also been the mayor of Baltimore. With what's happened in Baltimore, liberals are taking a beating right now. Basically, people saying that it's their fault, you did it, you made Baltimore what it is. So will this have any real effect if he decides to run, or is this just another one of those political speed bumps?
Well, it really doesn't hurt, but I think Martin O'Malley's biggest problem is that he's not a compelling politician. He's not a compelling figure in the Democratic Party. You're right. As a former mayor of a pretty decent-sized city, governor of a state for 2 years, I mean, here's somebody who should be able to challenge for the presidency, at least at a greater level than he is. But really, he's almost an afterthought. I think part of it can be chalked up to a sort of boring persona. Nice guy, kind of dynamic, plays the guitar, I believe. He's in good shape. But really, I mean, he gives a speech and it makes you want to go to sleep.
But then what is it then about that compelling? Let me ask you about that, because you just mentioned some great things about him. I mean, on camera, he looks great. He looks young. He's the kind of guy that people want. So then what is it about him that just makes him so boring? What has he got to overcome?
Part of it is he opens his mouth and he puts you to sleep. I mean, if you were at the Democratic National Convention in 2012 where they renominated President Obama and Martin O'Malley gave a speech, I still remember the theme of his speech was forward, not back, but I don't remember it as a compliment to Mr. O'Malley. I remember it because it's like the guy was droning on and on and on without any emotion in his voice. And he just hasn't grabbed the imagination of Democrats. And I put it this way, right? So Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont, an independent socialist who caucuses with Democrats, announces yesterday for president. Now, nobody expects Bernie Sanders to compete with Hillary for the nomination. But he's interesting, and he grabs the imagination of progressives and liberals looking for somebody to give them a voice at the table in what is otherwise a coronation for Hillary Clinton, and to possibly make her life a little bit difficult so that she has to fight. And nobody really looks at Martin O'Malley this way. And then on top of it, as you mentioned, you have unrest in Baltimore, which people are going to say, so what did you do while you were mayor? And after you were mayor of Baltimore, you spent 8 years as governor of Maryland. What did you do about Baltimore? And if we really want to dig into things here, we could say that the Obamacare program, the exchange program in Maryland, was a disaster after it was set up. And people were so unhappy that your lieutenant governor lost to a Republican. Republicans win the governorship in Maryland once every 100 years or so. Even though it was a lot sooner than that this time. But nobody expected this guy, Larry Hogan, to come out of nowhere and win the governorship. So this is Martin O'Malley's recent record, and that's part of his problem.
Well, what does this tell us, though, about the shallow nature of liberals, I mean, conservatives, anybody? Because what we're sitting here and talking about is how a guy looks, how he sounds, how he can speak. I mean, look, people will say that his record's pretty good, but look, Hillary's all smiles. She's out there looking real good these days, and we're talking about a guy who puts people to sleep. That's damn shallow of the American electorate to think that's the choices we make and why we elect somebody.
Yeah, oh well. I mean, I'm sorry, but presidential politics is partly about communication and likability. You know, Romney, one of the big reasons Romney lost in 2012 was because he got clobbered on this question, does he care about people like you? So it wasn't even necessarily a policy question for some people. They just thought, here's some rich plutocrat who thinks I'm a schmuck and doesn't like me, and at least Obama likes me. I mean, this is just the way American politics has been, at least since 1960. In that old story that if you watched the JFK-Nixon debate, you thought JFK won.
You saw Nixon sweating. You saw Nixon basically looking as if he'd never been in front of a camera before. I mean, he was nervous.
Yeah, he was sweating.
He looked like he wasn't ready.
Yeah, but if you listen to the debate on the radio, you thought Richard Nixon won. So, welcome to presidential politics in America.
All right, 2 minutes we got left here. Let's talk about two other people here. Ben Carson will announce next week. Carly Fiorina will likely announce next week. First, let's take Ben Carson quickly. I mean, we're talking here about being able to grab people and pull them in. A very pious man, but does he have anything that really makes him reach through the television camera and say, yeah, I'm the guy for you to vote for me?
Well, look, I think Ben Carson is compelling because he's an African-American Republican, and he says the things that many conservatives feel and wish politicians would say, and he gives voice to that. I think the fact that he's a novice politician, he's already made a number of amateur mistakes, and unless he has a real pro team around him, I'm just not confident that he's really going to end up breaking through given the depth of this field. I think Carly Fiorina has really surpassed expectations, and what she has going for her is a tremendous ability to communicate and talk about social issues and other issues in a way that Republicans really should note. Also, she's a woman in the field. She can go after Hillary Clinton in a way that the men in the field can't. And long after she's not the nominee, and she probably won't be the nominee, she's going to be one of the most valuable surrogates on the campaign trail for the eventual Republican nominee.
All right, 10 seconds. Out of the two of them, then, which one do you think really is the most likely to shake things up in the GOP field?
I'll hand it to Fiorina.
Simply because she has that ability to get out in front of the camera, grab people, and the female element as well?
And she's just proven to be very effective on the trail, and she's got a decent team around her. And she's surpassing expectations. You haven't seen the communication missteps that you've seen with Ben Carson.
We haven't seen it yet, David, but gee, it's so early. We have time to go and ways to talk about it. David Drucker of the Washington Examiner, thanks so much for joining us, David. Look forward to talking again.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right, take care. Up next, boxing fans worldwide will be watching a much celebrated match this weekend, all while ignoring the domestic violence history of one of the contenders. That's next, right here on The Hard Line.